For relaxing times, make it Suntory time. Alrighty.
There we go.
Come by. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Oh, yeah.
And since it's right in the morning?
So we did that your first time in Japan?
Yes.
I think we have a clip.
It's Suntory time.
Okay, so I'm Brent. This is my buddy Sean. I've been living in Japan for a long time, and he's visited 3 times. So I thought it'd be fun to have a talk about our different perspectives. So, 3 times. The first time in 2017.
Correct. Yep.
As I know, because I got that wrong yesterday, and then 2018.
Yes.
And now 2024. And how long did you stay each time? The first time was a month.
Yeah, I think the first time was about a month, 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 4 weeks.
That was in spring around Golden Week, right?
Correct. That was probably April, Mayish, somewhere in there. I think I left maybe first week of June.
And you missed you missed cherry blossom season.
I did.
And then you came back this time for cherry blossom season, and you missed it again. We won't go into why, but
I saw.
oh yeah, right.
When we went to see the 47 Samurai.
Right. Yeah.
We saw some of it.
And then the second time was in the autumn.
Yeah, and that was a little longer. That was about 6 weeks I was in country.
Right.
Yeah, end of October into November, and then first week of December or something like that I left.
And then now 2024, you're staying like almost maxing out your 3 months.
Yeah. Actually, 4 almost. I was here almost 3 weeks and change, and then I had to return to North America.
Oh, so reset the clock.
And then I reset at 3 months as soon as I walked back.
You can do that?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know you could do that.
So for foreigners, as far as I know with Japan, last time I saw it, I think it's 180 days within date to date. So if you entered at January 1st to January 1st, you can be in country 180 days.
Okay, hot tip. Just leave the country, go to Korea, go to Guam, come back.
I don't even think there's a time requirement when you pop out. Like it could be in 10 minutes, pop out of the country and just re-enter the border.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so your impressions of Japan.
Sucks.
No. Okay, thank you. Good night.
Yeah, that's it, man. I wouldn't have come back a third time if I didn't really enjoy Japan.
Of course.
Yeah.
And why did you come to Japan in the first place, besides me being here and giving you a free sofa to surf on?
It was actually a floor. He wouldn't give me the sofa the first time.
That's true.
I've always...
It is true. I gave you the true Japan experience.
You gave me the floor.
I got your futon and you slept on the floor.
Yeah, your recording studio, if you remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Right there by the bases, looking at bases every day. Okay. So I've always liked Japan since I was a kid. A lot of the Japanese stuff I really loved. Loved Godzilla when I was a little boy. I could barely walk.
What's the Godzilla appeal?
It's a good question when you're a little kid because, like you look at them now and they're antiquated and
But when
dated.
you're a kid, you're easily fooled, right? So
Well, it's all relevant to our time. The CGI the kids really love now, they're going to look at it in 20, 30 years and go, oh, it's horrible to watch, But at the time, it's just, you didn't know anything about Japan. You didn't fully know, we still don't fully know what's in the ocean, and Godzilla always came from the ocean.
yeah.
So something could exist down there. I'm not saying he's hanging out down there.
Yeah.
But it was always that kind of
we have our first conspiracy theory on the podcast.
There we go. Yeah,
Godzilla exists.
It's not flat, kids. But anyways, and I was talking to a friend recently about it, and I said, oh yeah, the Godzilla thing and all that, and he grew up on it as well. And he was asking me about the train, the hills and all that. It's exactly like we saw in those Godzilla movies with the guy stomping around, like those volcanic kind of rolling hills.
Yeah.
It's identical. So when I first came, I'm like, there we go. It's just like... So there was things like Godzilla, samurai movies, martial art movies, all that.
Shogun, which is now on again in a different form, yeah.
Yeah, it was popular when I was young when the book kind of was made into TV series, and that kind of boosted Japan. Plus, Japan was doing that economic boom around that time.
Right. That's a little bit earlier than that, but yeah, then in the 80s.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen Gung Ho.
No, I have not.
But you've seen Mr. Baseball.
Yeah,
Do you remember any of it? And remember any that you see something and go like, oh, this is in Mr. Baseball?
Yeah, so some of the pinnacle ones to give you, Godzilla movies. Sorry, I got to put it out again. Mr. Baseball, a crime thriller, Black Rain.
Yeah.
Some of the famous ones like The Last Samurai, Lost in Translation, and so forth. Going back to Mr. Baseball, the one thing I realized watching that show, a question you asked me the other day about what do I think about Japanese people and are the stereotypes kind of, true from the Western point of view? That movie is a really good description of Western thinking when we deal with Japanese.
Oh yeah.
We find them, they're very friendly, they're very agreeable right off the bat. Almost like, I don't want to say they're naive, but they're almost childlike when you first meet them and their emotions and how they respond to you.
I think they would admit that. A lot of Japanese self-proclaim themselves as being naive.
Yeah.
I'm naive, they say that,
Yeah. And in that movie, Tom Selleck, a main character, he was kind of dismissive and almost demeaning to them at times.
Yeah.
And then as he learnt the culture more and being there, he realized these people are far more deep in certain ways, and they probably have more advanced, I don't want to say advanced, that's a strong word, more developed thinking about some common things that maybe we in the West just...
Yeah. Well, the great thing
past.
about that movie is that we as Westerners see it from his side, going like, yeah, this is messed up. And then, now I've been in Japan, I look at it from the Japanese side and think like, yeah, that's messed up. But no matter which side you look at it from, as the movie goes on, they get closer and closer. Yes. And then the Tom Selleck character, he realizes, oh, yeah, there's more to meets the eye, and I have something to learn from these people.
Yes.
And the Japanese also, there's more to meet the eye. I have something to learn from this guy.
Yes.
And so, they
trading of cultures.
Total cultural clash to integration, and yeah.
If you watch it again, and I haven't seen it in a long time, but the manager, the manager, which turns out to be the girl's, spoiler alert, father, his character is great. He comes across as a really harsh, short-tempered, typical manager, but Japanese, but such a complex kind of man when you get to know him later on. And that's the one I remember standing.
Which is true of a lot of people in Japan, because you'll know somebody for a long time, and you'll ask like questions like, "What do you do?" And they say like, "Oh, I'm an office worker." And what do you do in your free time? Is "Oh, I'm too busy. I just work." But then if you really press them, you find out that they are systems engineer at a nuclear power plant. Yeah. You're like, what? You just said you're an office. Yeah, I work in an office. It's like, no, that your job is like extremely interesting.
Yes.
That's not always the case. There's a lot of boring jobs. But then, it's like, what do you really do? And there's I have a group. We go hiking sometimes. Yeah, where do you go hiking? He said, we go to some cliffs and go parasailing. I've actually had a guy tell me that. Like, totally like, we go hiking. Because they have to hike up the hill, and then I said, what do you do when it's like, where do you hike? Oh, we go to some cliffs. And it's like, what do you do at the cliffs? Oh, we go parasailing. It's like, why don't you just tell me from the beginning? It's like, but they're really ashamed of kind of talking about themselves because they feel like it's bragging, Yeah.
If I touch on something you just said a moment ago about boring, there are boring jobs. It's one thing I've learned about the Japanese. I told this story before to you. The first time I was here, I'd walk from your place over to the gym. I occasionally like to go to the gym. And it was a bit of walk, but I'd always go through the covered mall early in the morning. And most of the shops are pretty, they're not like North American where it's crack of dawn. They're a little shifted, but then typically a little later in the evening is kind of the culture here too. Yeah. So it's kind of shifted a bit a workday compared to what I'm used to. But anyways, I'd go through early. All the shops are closed. And this little man who owned one of the shops, he'd be out there every morning sweeping in front of his shop, but then down the extended sidewalks around his thing.
Yeah.
And it really just kind of stuck on me, their focus on, if they find something that maybe me and you might find as a boring job, maybe he loves working at a shop, but he takes really pride and honor.
They do definitely in general take a lot of pride, or at least they just do their jobs properly.
Their focus, I would say. Yeah. I would argue some of the West would...
I'm not leaving the podcast now. Just the croquettes are ready.
Brent is a bit of a foodie, so he's prepped food, trying to make us Westerners even more fat.
So that place in the station that sells those Kobe beef croquettes?
Yes.
Well, I got some because I thought they would go well with our drinks. Konnichiwa. これ2つください.
As you're talking about that, Suntory, if you're watching this, we are looking for endorsements. So,
so this thing I got like, where's the little box? Oh yeah, okay. So in the station. Japanese are really big on croquettes and stuff like that. So, Kobe croquette. There's a little place in the station. These are made with Kobe beef. So,
If you like to play on words, I'm going to have a croquet ball here.
be careful because the inside's like really hot. Because it's mashed potatoes and minced meat, kind of. And
I thought you were doing the Austin Powers 3D effect.
would you like some more pancakes?
That's what I thought you were doing.
That's a Canadian joke.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So it's
Shout out to
interesting.
Mike Myers, Canadian.
So it's interesting how it's an interesting well from which to talk about Japan. It's like stereotypes we had, and it's interesting because you look at a movie like Mr. Baseball and whatever, and they basically pack all the stereotypes about
Yes.
Japan
Yes.
into like one movie. Same thing with Gung Ho. Same thing with Karate Kid.
In the defense of Mr. Baseball, too, some of the Americanisms they get in there on the other side pretty good, too. The brashness, the short patience, which is often indicative. Having lived in the United States for about 7 years myself, we get a bit of that.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes is when he goes to the steak restaurant. They bring him the steak, and he goes, "Yeah, well, you haven't tried real steak until you've had Kansas beef or whatever." And then
It's Kobe
bites it.
beef.
Yeah. But he's bragging about his Kansas beef.
I remember.
So he takes a bite and he goes, "This is good.
Exactly.
This is really good.
Yeah.
This is better than Kansas beef." So
Yeah.
so
Actually, of all the movies I probably mentioned, there's other ones too, like Memories of a Geisha, and about Japan. But if you want stereotypes and maybe breaking down both ways, like Mr. Baseball, even though it's very antiquated, old movie now, it's very true. And still, the love of baseball in Japan still remains. It's amazing to me when I come. They're very American love of baseball.
yeah.
It's just rooted, the kids and everybody.
Well, the interesting thing about stereotypes is they exist for a reason.
Often rooted.
Because they're often rooted in some truth. And but the only problem with them is they're just not the full picture. So, like before I came to Japan, I had stereotypes about Japan. People asked me, "Why'd you come to Japan?" I didn't want to come to Japan. I wanted to go to China. I was learning Chinese, and I wasn't a fan of Japan at all. But I thought, there's probably kind people everywhere, so I'll give it a shot. I had my stereotypes about Japan were they're very conservative. I am not. It's like a concrete jungle, and that they have a horrible history, of aggression and everything. Yeah. And so, but I thought, those are the stereotypes I have of Japan from all the media or whatever. And I came over and found that some of them are true. They are conservative or whatever, but there's more than that. They're more liberal than we are in a lot of ways too. Mm-hmm. So you just get a fuller picture.
I generally, when I was coming the very even first time, maybe because I had some insights, my cousin, who was also a teacher, he lived in Japan for a long time. And years ago, he had given me a lot of information. And then you over the years and that. And plus, as we've got older, the information flow is better. So I didn't have as many probably stereotypes probably from the day when you came, because you didn't have, a lot of information probably coming. It was a lot more dark for you.
Yeah, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
It was interesting what you said about the mountains, because, people asked me what my first impression was. It's like, my first impression was that everything is the same as Canada, but a little different. Like, they have traffic lights, they're a little bit different. They have cars, they're a little bit different. They have roads, they have buildings and everything, but they're just a little bit different. So, but everything looked basically the same. Like, you could have told me I was in a different city in Canada, and I was, so they build buildings, and their traffic lights are a little bit different. Except that while we were driving, protruding from the earth were just these fucking, volcanic mountains. Just, because it was at night when I arrived here. And then we're driving, and just like, wow, because in Sudbury, we don't have that, and just like mountains just going breaking out of the ground. So I was like, yeah, this place was made from volcanoes.
So I have family in New Zealand. Probably most of my remaining family are in New Zealand, volcanic islands as well. So I didn't get as much shock because I had just come from New Zealand when I came. Well, I came from Australia the first time. I just remember going, oh, they have terrain very similar to New Zealand when I saw it. I'm like, good hiking. Probably good hiking area, you know. Get some exercise in.
No, it is great for hiking.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't have too many stereotypes, I guess, coming. When I knew the big cities like Tokyo and that it's, you know, it's just a conglomerate of culture, you know what I mean? Like, and you're gonna see girls dressed like anime characters. You're gonna see, you know, businessmen in, you know, $3,000 suits or more. It was exactly what I had seen in the movies, and the diversity. That was impactful. I remember seeing Tokyo and Osaka the first couple of times.
Yeah, you see all the things in the movie because, like I said, the movies pack them in. So in like a 1.5 hour period, you're going to see way more than you would just walking outside. You know, but if you take a trip to Japan over a week in Japan, you're going to see basically everything you've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah. So the other thing that's very interesting, I guess, from being from Canada.
I don't care if there's wind going into these microphones. I'm turning this thing. It's getting hot in here.
You're going into the jet stream, kids. The other thing you asked me, what appealed for me to come, you know, what brought me to Japan, the culture and history. I like all the old history, the samurais, all that's, you know, the historic. And in Canada, where you and I grew up and lived, you know, we'd be pushing 300 years, pushing 4 from the first traders ever to step foot, really, and start to establish communities and trading posts, and like maybe 400 years. I mean, that's just last month to the culture here. I mean, unless we want to talk a couple thousand years ago, and now and then we're into discussion, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a shrine near here that's 200 years old.
Yeah.
That's older than Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
And you walk around, like, you know, stereotype of Japan, it's just like city and neon lights and stuff like that. But you just turn a corner and there's like a 500-year-old shrine. It's like, and you walk in and you have no idea you're in a city anymore. It's just like you just get taken in through the gates and, you know, the building and everything. It's super cool.
I just remember I went to one of the castles and they had some of the old samurai items, including a couple suits, but some of the katanas and the handles had corroded or degraded years ago, wood and such, but the blades, the one was made in 1400 and change. And, you know, obviously they take care of it and they oil it or they polish it. If I took it out of the cage, or out of the display, I mean, it's a serious weapon still. And that's approaching 600, 700 years old. It just, and the maker's marks are on there, you know, it's just so much history. And that maybe drew me a lot.
You're also into martial arts. So you did jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
You ever do judo?
Yes. Hi. My dad was a instructor in judo. He was a police officer. So he used to teach the other officers hand-to-hand combat. We even had an international, I still have it, his international passport for judo competition and that back in the day, in the 70s and that. So Dad got me into judo a little bit when I was young, and then jiu-jitsu when I got older. Yeah.
So if you came to Japan to live,
Yes.
because you've been contemplating it,
Yes.
what would you take up?
Like
What martial art day?
It's a good question. I'd probably train jiu-jitsu again, especially being an older person. It's a more controlled martial
I
art.
hear people mess up their backs and stuff all the time.
Yeah, so it puts a lot of strain on the spine. But as you get older, the one good thing is, you know, having trained as a plus 40-year-old, if you're in really good...
You're over 40?
Yes, sir.
Oh my god.
If you train in good places...
Scare away the young people. Okay, yeah.
If you train in good places, if you know it's a good place, when the the head instructor will say, well, you basically get to choose who you train with. Because they want to make sure and they generally put you with a much higher ranked person, because then they roll, they take care of you. They're not going to injure you. The only injuries I ever had is from white belts. Young kids just, you know, real excited and in the class. And
I think it would be a totally different thing doing it in Japan too, because
Probably.
I think you would have more of the macho, I would have something to prove types in the States or Canada or, you know,
Yep.
Europe, than in Japan, where they would they would say, okay, he's this belt or whatever, and so
Yep.
I know what level he's at, so, you know, I act accordingly.
that's very true in North America, especially, like I said, you know, train both US and Canada. And the lower levels, you get, kid comes in, and they start rolling hard with somebody right away. And if it's a good place, instructor sees it, right? immediately puts them with like a brown or a black, and I'm like, yeah, you're not going to be doing anything to these people. You can do whatever you want, even though if you're physically more strong.
Did I ever tell you I did Aikido?
You did.
Oh, okay, yeah. It was good. I mean, Aikido is, as a martial art, it's basically useless, but the as a martial art is basically useless except if you are at a fairly high level and you're fighting somebody and you're not fighting, more like trying to subdue somebody at a really low level who doesn't know how to fight.
Or an untrained person.
It's good for teachers and people who work with challenged people or people who work in hospitals, because you don't want to knock somebody out to, who's hysteric or something like that, right? So you want to be able to subdue them. You use your body weight and just calm them down, So it's good for that. But the guy who was teaching, he was like 7th degree black belt in kendo and 10th degree black belt in karate, and I forget, 8th degree in aikido, but his main thing was karate, and he taught police mostly.
Yep.
And so his aikido was kind of like, you get some sort of lock where you can you do some sort of thing where the guy like that, and then give him a punch in the face like that. Because Aikido doesn't do that.
Be good in Japan, kids.
Yeah. But he's like, while he's going down, punch him in the nose. His eyes will water. You keep him down. It'll keep him off guard or whatever. And he wasn't against, like, he's like, you get a guy who's still resisting, break his fucking wrist.
Yeah. He's
like, because he was the real deal. He's like, if you're against somebody who's trying to hurt you or is trying to hurt somebody else, and you have to stop it. So it was really good because it made it more like not aikido but aijitsu. Like jitsu means real, and do means the way. It's like through the martial art you learn discipline and character. Yeah. But the jitsu, like jujitsu, means it's practical. It's a practical whatever. Yeah. Like I did kendo also.
That would be. You asked me what I would take up. That would be an interesting one to me because I've never had the opportunity to really. We probably have it in North America in spots, but I'm in Japan. This would probably be where you would find a historically accurate training system. I would think.
Kendo, by the way, is like basically Japanese sword fighting, but you use a bamboo sword, but you have a helmet on everything. You smack each other with these swords. And that's called kendo, the way of the sword, but it used to be called kenjitsu.
Oh.
And that's like actual sword fighting. Like that's how to, so kendo, even though you're doing it for real, it's kind of like through that you get physical
well-being.
and mental, physical well-being, mental discipline, and you learn manners, and you learn. Dude, I've never been. I think I told you this before. I've almost never been as calm in my life as when I was facing off with somebody. Like you stare in their eyes, and you got your swords like just crossing like this, and it's like. Because you have to, as you know, like, well, I don't know if it's in jiu-jitsu, but a tensed muscle can't move as fast as a calm one.
Yeah. So what you're talking about comes across in a lot of ways in life. Even The Last Samurai, if we're talking about Western movies.
Great movie.
There's a moment in that when Tom Cruise is facing the best samurai there, and he ends up getting a draw, but there's a calm moment in it.
Right. That's exactly it.
And you can find it in sports. You can find it in other modalities like writing. They sometimes talk about the muse,
Oh, we have it in music too, right?
The zone,
nothing else exists.
The zone, the moment. In music, we often say, get out of the way of our mind, or get out of the way. Stop thinking, just do. Sports, the zone. We're talking about those moments. It's almost like singular thinking moments or focused thinking. It's very, very common in my mind.
One of the reasons why I started doing kendo is I wanted to do martial art because I wanted to do something physical, but I also wanted to make friends. and practice Japanese.
Yes.
And it was great for that because in my kendo club, nobody spoke a word of English. There's all these old Japanese guys, right? So it was on me to like do all the, to communicate and understand what they're saying and stuff. It was a great way, just like trial by fire, to like really learn.
Yeah.
So if you came and joined a jiu-jitsu club or something like that, or kendo,
It would be a great way to meet.
yeah, you'd have to learn Japanese really fast.
Yeah. I contemplated being here this time, and then I'm like, maybe I don't have enough time. I'll do it, another time when I'm maybe, if I decide to move here, especially.
Yeah.
I would definitely take up a couple martial arts for personal, find your hobby. If you like making pots, whatever,
You can
pottery.
do that in Japan too.
You can. But I would take those for a few reasons. One is just physical well-being and mental well-being. Doing physical activities always makes you feel better. It makes me feel better. Two, the social aspect. Like you said, you might actually meet some people. Three, if I'm moving to Japan, I want to know more about the culture.
That was another thing.
Check all those things too, right?
Because doing a martial art, you learn about the old ways of doing things, and you learn about Bushido, the way of the warrior.
Yes.
Because it still exists in martial arts.
Yes.
Like in kendo, for example, like kendo class, when we were done, we would get in a lotus position and meditate for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and thank our teachers and stuff like that.
I'll throw out a shout out to a Canadian from the Sudbury region. If he's watching this, his name is Steve Jonkas.
I'll send it to him.
Yeah, I'm going to link Steve. This is about you. I'll tell you to watch it. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Gracie all the way through. The most zen kind of guy, if you know him, bass player, by the way.
Yeah.
Musician on top, so, a lot of commonality talking to him and that. And I had told him ages ago I was coming to Japan. He's like, I don't, he's trained, Muay Thai and all these sport. He's very much that, he's got that zen, almost, I don't want to say way of the warrior. He's probably going to laugh at this, but if you meet him, he's really, really chill. Let's go to the beach. Let's do, he's really easygoing. I think there is an effect like that because the other, a couple other black belts I've met in the U.S. training and that, they're always got this commonality. They're very zen-like people. I think martial arts does, to some people, contribute and add to their lives, in my mind. Yeah.
It really changed part of my thinking because they would tell me something I did wrong and I'd say, oh yeah, it's because I was trying to, and I was explaining myself, and they're like, no, you just say thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
When I tell you what you're doing wrong and I need to try to fix it, you say arigato gozaimasu. That's all. That's where it ends. You don't say what you were trying to do or why you were doing whatever. You just say. So I really learned. I learned that not to complain about things and just do what I'm told.
I even learned that in North America doing that too. I'm like, I was trying to do that. I'm like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You didn't execute what you were trying to do. It's like, okay, let's move on.
And even if they've misunderstood because if they've misunderstood, you just don't clear it up. You just say thank you.
Yeah.
If somebody teaches you. And here's a really amazing. In kendo, there are no belts. And the reason is every opponent is dangerous. So it can be the beginner or it can be whatever.
Yeah.
So we don't rank anybody because anybody can kill you basically if you're going by the Kenjutsu ways. So
so if I moved to Japan, for sure I'd probably take up a couple of things, and just for multifaceted for me, I think I think of I heard the story ages ago about him, and I was like, I always thought he was kind of a typical rock star whack job, and that was David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
He took a full year of his life.
Well, he's still a whack job, but he took a full year of his life.
With his dog, came to Japan, and he just learned Japanese writing.
Yeah.
For a year. I mean, the boy is so rich he could do whatever he wants, but he has a martial arts background too. But he probably has a loving culture.
No, and he did. What was it? He did a martial art. It might have been kendo, but he did a martial art in Tokyo. He joined a school. It was karate or jujitsu. I forget.
But he has a bit of that focus. You know what I mean? Like to take a year of your life just to learn writing and focus your life. The year of your life.
He became an ENT for a while too.
He did. His dad. Sorry, Dave, if you're watching this, we're probably bastarding your life and are killing it. His dad, I do believe, was a doctor on the East Coast, and
oh, really? Okay.
And I guess was kind of destined to go that way. And no, he wanted to be a surfer rock star, so he went to the West Coast. But you're right, he went back and became an EMT, and I heard a story about him. He was working EMT, whatever, guy had died, and he had to use paddles on him and that. He said he got the guy back alive, and he said the guy woke up and looked up like, am I still dead? Because David Lee Roth with the paddles on me. He thought he was still dead, yeah. Good story. But I guess the focus of coming to Japan is in some people, you know.
Yeah.
Or different cultures, I guess.
So what do you like about Japan? What are your favorite parts?
Oh, that's an interesting list. Japan for me checks a lot of
Yeah,
boxes.
just whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, it checks a lot of boxes. What I'm thinking of coming.
Like why people should come to Japan. Or
Yeah. First of all, if you're with family and kids and all that, extremely safe country.
super safe place.
More than both Canada and the U.S., I would argue. You often see young. I remember that first time I was here, young kids walking themselves to school, and I mean 5 and 6 year olds just walking to school by themselves.
Which was nothing when we were kids, but
No.
now people have lost their fucking minds, and now they nobody will let a kid do anything. Child services will come and arrest everybody if they find somebody.
You see them in their little suits and little backpack.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's the parent supervision? Like,
yeah.
So
I've seen it on the train. Like some kid gets on the train. He's like this tall. He's got the little backpack and the shorts and the cap or whatever. I was like, well, the kid's got to be like 7 years old, 6 years old.
So safety for sure.
Yeah.
I'm a tourist. I carry my medical insurance and all that. The healthcare system is top 5 world, I would argue, especially the developed countries.
Even if you didn't have insurance, paying by cash is still like almost as cheap as having insurance back home.
A better way to say it, coming from a fairly developed country, I know everybody's going to complain about, who's watching this, Canada, about our healthcare system and that. Take Brent and I word, there is far worse countries than our country for healthcare. At least you have something.
And it's far better too, but yeah, it's far worse.
But coming to here, you have those things. It's equal. So safety, health, and well-being is good. I'm a techie engineer by training, so kind of physics as well. So a very advanced technological country, advanced. I like that. I get to see cool things that are in my world. Or maybe I see things, I work in, that world. I'm like, oh, I never thought of it that way. That's a little different way to do it. Things like building protection, how they protect it from lightning here is different than what I'm used to in North America a bit.
And the earthquake prevention
Yeah.
and built into buildings and stuff. Yeah.
So technology, love the history, of course. Beautiful sights and the nature of Japanese people as a foreigner. Even though if they really, really at nature didn't like me, you would never know. They would never, as you, they would never. So I always say, ignorance is bliss. This person may not like me, but I'll never know to the day I die. They treat me really nice, and and so they're very friendly. I remember being lost. I think it was in Hiroshima the first time. Yeah, lost. Didn't know. I was looking for a place. I didn't know. I asked a lady right at a shop. She stopped what she doing. She escorted me directly to where I needed to go, and then she did her final bows and went back on her way. And I'm like, you'd never get that from North America.
I do that now.
Yeah.
Like even when I'm abroad, I was in Canada once and somebody asked me a question. I said, "Sure, I'll take you there." And just like, "No, you don't have to do that." It's like, "No, it's okay."
Yep.
And just because I learned that from Japanese, and when you go into a supermarket and you say like, "Where's the shaving cream?" and then they won't say aisle 7.
No.
They'll take you to the shaving cream. Yeah. Here it is. It's
they go along. They show me the different brands, and I'm like, I'm good. Like
no, they're really service oriented, and they're really nice. Yeah.
I would top of that. The service you get in Japan is probably bar none I've seen.
No tip.
No
tipping in Japan. Don't even try to tip in Japan. They'll freak out. No, they'll think you did something wrong and forgot your money or whatever. That there are exceptions. You can tip taxi drivers, and at traditional Japanese inns called ryokans, if you insist that you want to give something to the person who did all the serving and cleaned up the room or whatever, they will take it. But usually what they'll do is they'll divide tips among all the workers.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Don't tip. 99% of the places I've gone, I don't tip. Don't.
You just get used to it, and then when I go to somewhere like Canada or whatever, I'm like, how do I do this? How much tip do I give? It's like then I understand my students who go abroad and come back, and they're like, I didn't understand tipping. I don't know what to do, and it's like, yeah, me neither. I don't know anymore.
So those are kind of the main things. Obviously, I have some friends like you and Christian here, and that's why I come back. But also as a foreigner, if I didn't know anybody in the country, I could easily survive in Japan on my own, especially with technology now. I'm at
right,
and they're very don't want to say welcoming to foreigners. They're not.
Right. So this time you got yeah, that's true. They don't. When I came here,
I don't hear
people
any
kind of freaked out. When seeing a foreigner, they would just go white. But you rented what's called a monthly mansion. It's
Yes.
basically you rented an apartment.
Yes.
It's basically like a Airbnb here.
Yeah.
But it's through a big company, and I'm not saying the name because I don't want to endorse them because they gave us really, really horrible service, even though you did get the cheapest price that seemed available.
And a really nice apartment for
Yeah,
that.
it's a nice apartment. So
Just some of the bureaucracy of the company was
yeah,
interesting.
it was difficult, and not because of a language barrier, but
No.
anyway. So I'm just saying this because it's a way to go. You can rent monthly apartments, and it's probably the way to go for a family or for a
Yes.
couple or something like
Yes.
that. If you're going to stay here a long time, choose somewhere that's your base for 2 weeks, and then maybe you go to Tokyo and stay there for 2 weeks, and you just rent one of these apartments rather than staying in a hotel.
I'm using it this weekend. I'm leaving for Okinawa, but I still come back to it. It's kind of my leaping.
Right, yeah, you can even do that. Like if you had the monthly mansion
Yep.
for 1 month or 2 months, and you want to take a trip to Hiroshima and stay there, and then you come back and you have your apartment. So, yeah, that's great. So you are basically living in Japan now,
Yes. About 3 months, yeah.
except you don't have a job, but otherwise. What do you
I'm
eat?
homeless.
What do you eat every day? And tell me about
Yeah.
your daily lifestyle. You joined a gym.
Yeah, so I've come to Japan before, like I said, and stayed longer than most tourists and that. But I was still a tourist. I didn't get a chance to live day to day. What do you do? So you learn the things, like your groceries and your laundry, and joined a gym, trying to stay healthy and all that.
You found a little grocery shop near your place. It's kind of like a mom and pop kind of
A little sliver in the wall. You can go to the more,
established.
like the train station. Before Westerners will get used to this. Most of the rail systems, they have grocery stores right there. And you would think it would be something crazy, but they're very nice little grocery stores. You pay a little bit more probably,
A little more expensive, yeah.
but very near to where I live, I found this little mom and pop sliver, and they have fresh produce and almost every day. So I try and support them because they're,
So what do you eat every day?
So I'm a pretty basic guy. So I stay to generally some meats every day. It could be like steak, chicken, ham, whatever. And then I'm a veggie guy, and I pretty well eat fruits every day. I'm one of those.
Right, yeah.
So that little
One
market.
of those.
Yeah, fruits. Wait, that'll go bad on the internet. We'll have to cut that one.
I'm cutting that out, and I'm going to make a short on it.
Yeah. Fruits, and just clipping and then put my words to it. But I generally get those from them. Nuts, I'm pretty basic.
So you just fry up meat, fry up vegetables, and
Yeah.
the people who say it's
I'm not
difficult to eat healthy. It takes
No.
less than 10 minutes.
Yes.
In fact, when I walk in the door, from when I walk in the door to when I'm eating, it's 10 minutes.
Yes.
It's like frying pan on, meat in, microwave the vegetables, and then I'm sitting down eating 10 minutes later.
I can't say everywhere, but most of the stove systems are gas here that I've seen. It heats up pans real quick. It doesn't take as long to fry things or even boil things and that. So normal things like eggs.
Okay, what Japanese things do you buy like bentos sometimes?
Sometimes bentos, yeah, I've had those.
So what are your favorites?
I don't know. I just kind of surprise myself. Generally, I find there's a lot of chicken in a lot of them. Probably because the cost
Which
of
is a home run. Japanese fried chicken is great.
because chicken is relative. It's actually lower priced than in Canada and U.S. anyways. Beef is probably a little more expensive or equal to the worst prices kind of in North America.
Yeah.
And I'm not speaking of Kobe beef. I'm speaking general beef.
No, but and even then, usually what they have here, at least in Kobe anyway, it's Australian beef, and then Japanese beef, and the Japanese beef is only slightly more expensive than the Australian beef. But the Australian beef is cheaper here than it is in Australia, as you've told me,
Yes, it is.
and cheaper in New Zealand.
So sometimes I'm cost sensitive. I've ate beef 3 days. I'm like, I'll have chicken for a few days because it's really cheap chicken here. They must have a huge industry of it.
And so, what are your favorite restaurants? Well, we've had yakitori like 10 times.
Yeah, it's up there.
So yakitori, which is a grilled chicken restaurant, and then but your favorite is
Brazilian.
yeah. So if you're in Kobe, I recommend if you're in Kobe, go to Harborland, and on the third floor of the building there, it's a whole complex of restaurants and stuff, and it's right near the big Ferris wheel, and right near the Ampama Museum. Anyway, that restaurant is my favorite restaurant in probably almost all of the world. I can't say all the world because there was a couple nice places in Italy that I've been to, but almost the whole world. That's one of my favorite places. And you can sit outside in the nicer months and you have a great view of the harbor, and they come around and serve you all this amazing beef.
Insert picture of harbor here.
Yeah, and it is not, yeah, I think we have a clip, and it's not expensive. So lunchtime out the door with a couple drinks each, it's about 6,000 yen or something like that, just like $50 or something like that for the two of us. Dinner time's more expensive. Dinner time's about 4,000 yen each for dinner only, or 5,000 yen.
I don't even think it's $50. I think it's about $40 once I do Canadian exchange.
Right.
And that's for a few drinks and full meal. I mean, and that's equivalent to a posh kind of restaurant. This is a restaurant you could take a date to.
Yeah.
Where you and your wife
It
could
is
go.
very casual though. But it's nice enough, like, because of the view and everything, yeah.
Like,
and
if
then,
you were with your wife, you could sit on the deck
yeah,
and
yeah.
look at the harbor.
It's
like,
a great day place.
yeah.
And then also a good place for families. And the Brazilian guys who work there, they're always really funny and jovial. And,
Great energy.
Yeah, great energy.
Yeah, they're always happy walking around.
And to compare, we went to the Osaka one last night, and that was stuffy, and the staff wasn't as good, and the meat was great, but it was way more expensive.
It is,
You know.
yeah.
But as for
Very posh establishment, though.
As for yakitori, we went to the one near me that I really like a lot because they're like artistes. But the other one, Torikizoku. Torikizoku has a yellow sign with red letters, and
Yes.
Torikizoku, I'll write it in the show notes. I'm probably gonna forget. I should be making memos here. But
Brent's looking good for a good editor here, so if you know one, send him in his way.
when my parents came, we went out and we just ordered all the stuff that my mom loves to eat, and she loves the innard stuff, so she'll try anything. So we had heart and gizzards and then the regular stuff of fried chicken and the wings and whatever, and of course on the skewered meats we tried everything, and we other stuff, deep fried cheese and
Yes.
I can't remember cheese. We were drinking our faces off, and when we finished, for the three of us, and my dad didn't eat so much, but the three of us was something like $55, something like that. And my mom asked, because I was paying, right? And then she said, "How much was it?" And I said it was, it's about 55 Canadian. And she's like, "No." She's like, "That's too cheap. I feel like I'm stealing from them." Because she said, you can't eat like that in Canada for that much.
No.
She said,
No way.
to eat like that, it would cost us like $50 each.
Yeah.
To eat like that, and we were just going crazy. Mind you, Torikizoku has $3 drinks,
Yeah.
which really cuts down on everything.
So where was the place you and Christian and I went the one time? It was like a happy 3 hours or something window, and we walked in, it was like $20, a kind of equivalent. All you can eat, all you can drink, but then you can't stay longer than that. And we went out. It was like a Korean barbecue almost style.
That was the
But it had-
shabu shabu.
I was like, I like that
The
place.
soup, the soup with
the two different broths.
Yeah, you just keep. No, it was $40 basically for all you can eat and all you can drink. But
My God.
$40, all you can eat, all you can drink. That's nuts.
This is three boys going out on the town.
So we're
you can
pounding
imagine.
down the drinks, and they're just like
And-
more pork, more beef, more everything, as the
And-
Seinfeld thing goes.
And for not a Soundfog guy. And as those places sometimes advertise, the drinks, cheap and all that. They were good drinks. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
off the menu drinks, not like these are the 3 items only you can drink.
No, it's like cocktails.
Yep,
and,
I drank cocktails.
and the chuhai, the whatever. It's basically like a vodka with fruit juice in it, and the beers and highballs, and
And whoever makes this product, if you're online, I'm open for endorsements of this one right here.
we
Pineapple.
should be covering these and saying like, hey, we're not giving you free advertising, but
You can
I'm
you can
not-
put the black on her. Yeah.
I'm not in a position to do that yet, but
I'm one of those opportunists. Cheers to you.
Well, you're very optimistic also because
You never know.
probably 5 people are going to watch this and that's it, and 2 of them are sitting right here.
6th person will be the executive of this company. You no, but yeah. So that place I enjoyed. I meant great meal. I remember
amazing
and
food, yeah.
bang for the buck. Like in Canada, you and I and Kristen, 3 of us, we're $300 and some for that sitting, easily.
So that place I'm talking about is called that shop is called Onyasai. On and yas means warm, and then yasai means vegetable. So Onyasai, and but there are others. It's like a shabu shabu, but it's like the soup, and you can order whatever kind of soup you want. You can choose from 4 or 6 different kinds of soup. And you can even change them out while you're eating, and you order these, like it comes on a fake bamboo tray, and if you order like 4 of them, they'll stack them up, and you just you swish them around.
That's right. They had them. It was almost like a Jenga game. Jenga all stacked up, and meat and that. Yeah. Jenga. That's it. But of the places, that's 5 years ago, and that one always stays in my memory banks of that.
Oh yeah, that's great. Well, we should go again before you leave, if possible. That's great. Like going out in this country is way cheaper than going out in Canada or the United States. Even, what do you think? United States comparable?
I lived in a fairly low.
States, you got to pay.
Yeah, I lived in a
tip.
I lived in a fairly low cost state though. Like the last time, Texas.
No tax.
It's very, low cost. It's a very rich state. So, if you're going out to a formal dinner, no, they're probably more expensive there. They can probably match you with the little mom and pop, eggs and bacon, kind of place. You're going to probably be comparable. Drinks, probably here you'll start to get the better savings.
One thing my mom said, so we're from Canada, she said, when I go to the States, the service is amazing because Canadians, they make more money, right? So
Yes.
they don't give a crap about the service. They'll sit around talking to each other before serving you and stuff like that. But at the States,
He's speaking in generality here.
they're working for their tips and the service is bang on. But she said when she came to Japan, she's like, these people don't work for tips, but they're just, the service is amazing.
I said it earlier here in this one, customer service.
Yeah.
It's equal to anything I've seen. I mean, Europe as well,
But one thing you got to get used to is, unlike the States where they're coming around constantly asking you if everything's okay and if you'd like a refill on the coffee, there's no refills in coffee here, and they do not come around, which I like. Because how many times you've been eating and and then it was like, what was I saying? And it's like, because last night we were
Brazilian does that.
Brazilian restaurant, I love it, but the only thing about it is they're coming around with the meat all the time and it interrupts conversation. But I mean, it's a balance. So no, but in the States and Canada all the time, they're always asking me if everything's okay because they want to get a nicer tip. But in Japan, they leave you alone, and I like that. And you can't be afraid to just call them out. Just say sumimasen. You just say like that. You sumimasen, and it's very, even now. After living here over 20 years, I still feel a little conscious, like yelling out, like, hey, like garçon, like
It's almost like that Western thing, like waiter.
Yeah, waiter. Yeah.
You feel kind of rude. It's a Bill Murray moment in a movie.
It's totally normal, and you'll hear Japanese people like just scream it out, "Sumimasen!" like that. They don't. That's just the way it's done here. So when in Rome, whatever. But
So for the record, Brent, far more foodie person than I. I'm very functional eater. So fancy kind of goes over my head. Not required. We got some protein, we got some carbs, we got some healthy fats. I'm good to go. But you're much more a connoisseur with taste, and you enjoy it.
how is
So
this?
in future, if you have questions, he's the man, not me.
I could give some food advice for sure. And how is this? Oh, here's one food advice. There's
Good
basically there's no bad restaurants in Japan basically. So anywhere you go in Japan, if you think something looks good, it's good. Everywhere is going to be at least good.
Once.
Oh, once
In 3 trips, yes.
All right.
Yeah, it was with Christian and Mark. One time we went out and had some food, and we were just like, all of us like,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, that is so rare.
But once in, I don't know, like 6 months of dining,
yeah, because the thing with Japanese people won't tell anybody that the restaurant was bad, but they just won't go back. And so you can last as a restaurant for 6 months or a year.
But
then you have no business.
we would call it word of mouth back home,
Yeah.
right? Just people would.
So in Japan they just go out of business because nobody goes back, and and if you want to thrive as a restaurant, you need repeat customers. So
As I'm talking with you, I was doing it a little bit in our conversation. One thing Japanese too is they reinforce your conversation a lot. So be saying something to them like,
Yeah.
They're doing that, but in their words, they're like, so. But they reinforce your conversation a lot when you're talking to them. And I start to even do it when I'm here in Japan.
They call that aizu uchi. So it means, confirming that you're listening to the person.
Yes.
And it's so funny because when I first came to the country, like, you know, after a few months, I could speak like, you know, some basic Japanese. But when I had to do something administrative on the phone, like I had to call the phone company to ask about, you know, whatever plan or ask about internet hookup or something like that. I'd call and I'd ask them a question. It's like, I have a question. And then, you know, they say, yes, and then I say, I want, you know, so I say my question and then they're talking and they're saying, oh yes, well, if you apply now, hello? And I'm like, yeah, hi, yeah, I'm here. Okay. If you apply now, then, you know, by the end of the month, we can have it. Hello?
They're waiting for the
They want me to say, hi, or like
So-
that. I have to keep doing that throughout the conversation, but I didn't know. And I started getting upset. I said, hi, imasu yo. Like, I'm here. Well, what do you think? I'm just leaving the phone off the hook and going to the bathroom in the middle of conversation? Like, I got upset about it. But then, you know what it was? It was actually this, the book that I was using to study had this topic, aizu uchi. And that's where I learned it. And I was like, you know, and it was in English. Japanese do this. And then, you know, so I learned about it. I was like, oh, that's what's going on here.
I first saw it and then I realized it in my conversations. And then I started doing young girls in their conversations with each other. You see, oh, you know, they're always reaffirming the conversation. I noticed it.
Some people even do it really loud.
Yeah.
They're just like, hi.
Oh,
Yeah, like that.
young girls that do the, oh, you know, you get that a lot of times. And I'm like, wow, okay.
I find that so cute. Like, you know, not only young girls, but people, you'll say something surprising.
That's it right there. Yes. Yeah. So get used to that sound. You'll hear it.
And then when they're going like, I like, oh yeah, like that reaction is like a, oh no, it's like a, that one, like that. It's like, oh yeah, really, oh yeah, like that's kind of like.
I almost want to lean over. You a little constipated? You okay over there? What's going on?
So I find it so cute.
The one thing to add to that, just the final, from my point of view, is it's nice. It's nice as a foreigner to understand. They're very into your conversation. It's not like the North American 1,000-mile stare, or, you know,
Yeah.
1 mile stare behind you. They're looking through you or past you. You know.
No, you know what it is about that is that, so Asian languages in general, in Asian languages, the onus is on the listener to understand the language, to understand the communication, because
okay.
Asian languages tend to be more vague. And until you've learned an Asian language, you have no idea how exact English and German, and even to an extent French and Spanish and Italian, those are
The use of I or mine, in a sense, isn't required sometimes here in
right,
Japan.
and neither is it in Spanish and Italian, Portuguese. So
I'm speaking the English only.
So, but it is in French. So French is even more exacting of a language. But
Yeah.
and if you want exact languages, like
It's more context statements sometimes. Like
Yeah.
they make a statement on a context, and you kind of got, okay, yeah, it's about me. You kind of fill in some words in your brain.
So
From a foreigner.
so in Western languages in general, the onus of the understanding and communication is on the speaker. It's
be
our
concise and clear.
responsibility to be exactly to convey our thoughts exactly, so the other person doesn't have to understand much, and that's why you just listen. You don't have to say anything. But in an Asian language where it's more vague, it's up to the listener to. Oh, I love that sound. It's up to the listener. Well, I can't leave you hanging.
I'm feeling like one of the comedians off Joe Rogan here. We get going in the early morning or late morning doing a podcast, and by like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, you're half tanked with some drinks.
I'm gonna break out a chew high also. Yeah. Stealing a chew high. There you go. Okay, come by.
Come back. Gastrolia. Let's use some. I know it's not politically correct with what's going on in the Ukraine, but it's a great statement.
So And these things are good. They're dangerous though, because they're like this one's 28% fruit juice.
Foreigner, I'll tell you. Chuhai, kind of like the American cooler or North American cooler. Fruity, they'll do a fruity mix with some type of alcohol, sake in this case.
In Japan, chuhais are usually made from potato, so like a vodka, or rice, so like a sake.
Sake.
But not a sake like wine that you would drink. I mean, like the pure alcohol kind of sake. And then it's like a shot mixed with fruit juice and sparkling water.
Spritzer,
like that.
Yeah, so if you're a foreigner and you're not sure what to go, Chuhai is a good one. If you're a light drinker, you'll get lemon, grapefruit, orange, pineapple. I think there's a grape one I saw too somewhere.
Yeah, there's grape.
Yeah,
and
so-
there's green grape and apple. And like green apple.
I again recommend the pineapple. my
You're a
friend.
pineapple fan for sure.
Yeah, I love pineapple.
Make sure you're not too far over the. I don't know. Yeah, don't want to get you cut out. So what were we talking about? Drinking? Yeah, I know.
Being
these
like
are
the Canadians on North.
these are definitely recommended if you're in Japan. You don't want to drink. Also, they go really good with food. Because
It's going back to food, kids.
especially the lemon one, because it has a really clean taste. It's not too sweet and everything.
If I jump back in conversation, something just popped in my mind. Why I come to Japan? Also, music.
Oh,
You and I being musicians all our lives, and that some of the music's different, culture is different. I like music. I don't have my one friend Shelly, if she ever sees this. She always describes me a bit as Buddhist. Like I'm not really into material things. I could own.
I can vouch for that. Yep.
Yeah, a couple pieces of clothing and I'm good for the rest of my life. Kind of guy. I don't need objects and toys, but I enjoy music and I enjoy my musical equipment. I do like to get some stuff, and I love. Like Japan has some of the best musical, especially vintage musical equipment I've seen anywhere, including U.S. and Canada for sure. And U.S. has a great, just by their populous collection of gear.
Yeah, no, definitely. And music shop hopping in Japan is really cool.
I would argue if you're an antiquities person, you probably could find amazing things in this country. If you're into things like textiles, like you were telling me about the old kimonos.
Yeah.
And the lack of usages for them nowadays there's a lot. If you're an arts or a collector of anything, you probably could come to the country and enjoy it. Vintage cameras, for example.
Yeah, you're gonna end up buying an extra suitcase when you come here. In other words, so no, but I think that's the way to go. Like keep everything simple and then put your money into whatever. I don't personally do that, but I have a lot of hobbies, and because I have to spread my money around to a lot of things, I don't have super expensive anything. I just kind of I get the decent one of whatever I get. So
I'm a bit lucky that I'm able to come to places like New Zealand and Japan and stay long periods. Some people work in whatever just can't do that, but I'm lucky I can. But I always tell people the 1 year in my life that I made the most money, and I mean relative to all the other money you've made as your job or career, it was phenomenal compared year. That year I made that money was the worst year of my life.
yeah.
So for me, I always tell people I've learned in my own life that there is no direct correlation between money and true happiness. Don't get me wrong, as long as you have enough money to survive and pay your bills and put food and your loved ones are taken care of. But all the bonus is bonus, right? There's other things that are more important.
Yeah,
in
they've
life.
proven that after a certain amount of money, it doesn't make anybody happier.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so other things that you I asked you before about culture shock in Japan.
One last thing, why I came to Japan. My mom in her later years went blind, and she never got to see these places in the world. So I always said to myself, maybe for my mom, who's gone now, maybe I could see places in the world that she never saw and make sure I see them.
Or having learned a lesson, that you can, because you got to travel while
With her help.
These people who think like, oh, I'll travel when I'm retired.
Don't do
do it now. Do it now while you're young enough to enjoy it, and you can walk upstairs at the Spanish Steps in Rome, and you can go hiking in the cliffs in Greece and stuff like that. When you're 65 or 70, you're still going to be healthy, but you're not going to feel like doing all that extra stuff. And
I
why
was
not
at-
start now and just do it little by little your whole life? And you can still do it when you're 70, but there's also the chance that something freakish is going to happen, like you're going to lose your sight, or an accident is going to happen, or your loved one's going to get hit by a bus. And then you're going to wish that you did it sooner. So
If you're contemplating, I tell young professionals I work with sometimes. If you're contemplating it, do it. If you're on that fence of not to do it or do it, just do it. Don't even think the other way. Just do it right now.
yeah, and speaking of spending money, like it's also been proven that spending money on experiences makes you happier than spending it on goods. So
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think, studies. When they talk to people, millennial or how do they call them? Centurions?
centuries.
People that make 100 or more, and their regrets in that, and they often say things like travel more, see more of the planet.
Nobody regrets not working more.
Yeah.
I wish I would have waited until I retired to start traveling. Nobody says that.
But that would be a fundamental reason why I came to Japan too, to let you know. Sorry, can you have a question?
No. So how about any culture shock, and not culture shock like when you say culture shock, it sounds too like too aggressive. Just things where you're like, oh, okay, that's different. So or things that you haven't that you haven't gotten used to even now, maybe.
The no tipping the first time, like I was here, that was a culture shock, especially when I threw some down and they're like almost offended.
Yeah, they're not offended, by the way. They just don't know what's going on, and
They have that appearance anyway.
and they just can't take money that's extra money. It's just really strange. Like if there has never been tipping, and somebody
Yeah, it's
just
strange.
started tipping, you would think that's strange. What are you doing, like
So culture shock of that. When in places large like Tokyo, Osaka,
Yeah, I know what you're gonna say.
and walking through the crowds. And I mean, like Tokyo is, I think, the largest metropolitan city in the world for population, I think, in the area.
Yeah, or Mexico City. But anyway,
It's in the argument of one of the biggest on the planet. And you're at the stop or crosswalks, and it goes green, and you have 500 people within close proximity coming at you, and you're like, okay, I got a bit of shoulders. I'm gonna be whacking some older ladies here, and I don't want to. It's amazing.
I want to.
He's lived here too long.
I lean into it. No.
But the ability of Japanese people that have grown up in this culture,
yeah.
just to be able to navigate in waves, and it's just like fingers, and they just go through, and no one runs into each other. I was absolutely, and I've been in New York. Don't get me wrong, those people are used to walking, but they are not like this. It's unbelievable their efficiency of not colliding.
My parents said the exact same thing. My mom always said it was unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
at the Shibuya crossing is like one of the biggest crossings. It's probably the most famous
It's up
crossing
there.
in the world.
Yeah.
And she said all these people just start walking across, and they all just like ghosts. They just kind of go through each other. I didn't hit a single person. It was amazing. Yeah, they said the same thing.
So their ability to navigate crossings or populace, even Tokyo Station, first time I was there, I thought, oh my God, just trying to get across, when there's, and no problem,
Yeah, except the what do you call them? The zombies.
Yeah, walking zombies, they call
Walking
them.
zombies.
Yeah, that's kind of different this time. More people head down, a little more collision.
Oh, also different than last time, which is helpful for tourists.
Oh yeah, the big one.
It's off topic, but
No, it's another thing, kind of culture shock. The amount of English on signs and
so that's like a good culture shock. You're
yeah, like first time I came in 2017, I mean a couple spots I was in, I'm like, no, there's no signs with English. You might get a number or two, and you'd get that.
It's almost like they didn't want anyone here, or as I always say, like Japanese spent years being the number one like tourists in the world, like especially in the 80s during the bubble.
Yeah, when they had
And nobody put up a single Japanese sign everywhere, and
No.
it's almost like they said, you know what?
Screw
Fuck
you.
you! Like you come here, you're gonna have to deal with the Japanese like we had to deal with English when we were going everywhere in the world. It's almost like that. I'm sure it's not, but
So
they
then
just
the
don't
next-
think to put up the English, but now they do.
Next time was better, but now a 5-year jump. And the only reason it's been 5 years since I've been here, I was coming when COVID and the pandemic hit. I already booked for that. I think it broke in March. I was already booked on April to come, so I had to cancel all that. But this time, the amount of English on signs and buildings is unbelievable. And I see Japanese in, the two writing forms, English, Mandarin and Korean. I see pretty well those four in the major spots I go now.
I've noticed that too in the past, like 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years. Every train has the Japanese, English, Chinese, and Korean. The sign changes.
Yes.
They'll say like Sanomiya, and then in Japanese, Sanomiya, and then
Yeah.
the Chinese version, which I have no idea, and then the Korean which is Sannomiya.
So long as you stay to major places, like sometimes I've gone to places they're smaller towns and that.
Oh yeah, then
You can kiss that goodbye. But the one thing now, you got things like Google Lens, which will do the translate for you on the fly, and
yeah, that's amazing.
the AI. Some of the ones like Rabbit and that now are going to be doing real time, even conversational translation. So on that, it's changed. So as a foreigner, if you're concerned about that, in large places like Tokyo, you'll navigate pretty good. And they use number systems, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, you can read all that stuff. So if you need to be at platform 5, you'll find platform 5.
That's another thing is like because of the numbers, I had no problem shopping when I came here because I went to the shopping center. Oh, I didn't know what I was buying sometimes. I was like, okay, this fish looks interesting. I'll try frying that up. I don't even know if I'm supposed to fry it or not.
Yeah.
But I'll try that. And then you go to check out and they might say something or whatever, but you see the price, you give them that much money
Yes.
and say thank you, arigato gozaimasu, and then you leave and it's like, yeah, the shopping is a really easy experience.
Yeah. Yeah, so day-to-day things like you were asking me a while ago, but that's really easy. Like shopping, I use my credit card. It's accepted everywhere. And it'll give me English options, mainly on screens if you want. I sometimes have been trying to do the Japanese screens because then it teaches me for the smaller towns.
Right, yeah.
But 7-Eleven screens, once you learn them in the larger cities, they're the same in the smaller.
Right.
The interface is the same. It must be a company-wide thing.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So even though it's full Japanese, I'm like, I know what I'm doing here. I can read this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the way I learned. Like I can read every place name basically between Kyoto and Himeji because I've just seen it so many times. But put me in Tokyo, I have no idea how to read the place names because sometimes I can even read. Because if you can read a Chinese character in Japan, if you can read a Chinese character and you can read that Chinese character, that doesn't mean you can read, because sometimes it has a Chinese sounding way to say it, a Japanese way of saying it, and sometimes there's even 2 or 3 or 4 Japanese ways of saying that.
We have equivalents in English too. If I don't use to in any form, you have no.
Right, yeah.
What do you mean? Number?
Sure, there, yeah.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. I forget what's. There's one with like in English. I think it's 7 different rows. The way we say it can mean like 5 or 6 different ways.
Rose.
Yeah. Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but there is. I think that word is one of those that stands out for foreigners going, "What the heck?" Unless you mean it. Culture shocks. Other ones. The kindness and friendliness of Japanese. You always think is y'all. Did I do a y'all? That was close in my brain.
No, you said you always think.
You always think. I lived in Texas for a while. Occasionally I throw out a y'all and I'm like, what the heck happened there? Maybe from being over there, you think that they maybe have false pretenses to their friendliness and kindness, but no, that's the way they are when they're speaking to you.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, like they have no deceptive reasoning to be like that, but sometimes, why is this guy really way over the top too nice? It's like, what's his angle or what's going on here?
Yeah.
Maybe get a bit of that. That was a culture shock.
It's part of, it's one reason why this place is kind of a utopia. It's like
It is.
everywhere you go, people are, whether they're being genuine or not.
Ignorance is bliss is what I
People
say.
are nice. Like Bertrand Russell wrote an essay called In Praise of Superficiality.
Oh, wow.
And because it kind of keeps the social order, and it's like, even if you don't feel like when I say like, well, where's the shaving cream? And, they feel like saying aisle 7, but they don't.
Right by the razors, Einstein.
But yeah, but they don't do that. They say, I'll show you. Please come here. And there's another thing. I just read this. I just heard this on a podcast today. I mean, I've always known this, but I've known this for a while. But it reminded me of this. Doing something for somebody increases your feelings for them.
Wow.
You think if I do something for you, you'll like me more, and that's possible. But when I do something for you, I like you more.
Yeah.
Because I'm demonstrating somehow, like if I pick you up at the airport, then I'm going out of my way to do something for you, and then I like you more because I'm serving you. It's like it's counterintuitive. But
You've also invested some of you and time and life into them.
Yeah,
right?
your investment is
Time.
pays off. Yeah. So if you want, this I love you, it's I
love you too, man.
and then cheers. Love is a verb.
Now we're turning into Rogan and them after. I love you, man.
Yeah, we only have 1.5. Jesus,
Yeah.
I think we should stop here.
We're lightweights compared to those boys.
I love you. The love is a verb. Like if you want to, if you don't have, if your feelings for your partner or whatever, or somebody is decreasing, love them. Like love the verb them. Show them your feelings.
Yes.
And when you start serving another person, you will start liking them more and start loving them more.
That's often true of relationships that fail. They start to withdraw from the relationship in ways, right? And
And it's a downward spiral.
Yes.
Because the less you feel, the less you do. And the less you do, the less you feel.
yeah.
But if you want to get it back, do more.
Yeah, force yourself.
Do more. Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, those are some culture shocks anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I could go into some. There was one moment that I had like a real culture shock in Japan, but, for the most part, it's pretty easy.
I got a good culture shock from being a foreigner with blue eyes.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, you being a blue. But sometimes you're on the train system or whatever, and there'll be a young child. Normally a little girl is what has happened to me. She might be 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. All of a sudden, that feeling of somebody staring at you. And I turn around, and there's a little girl, she's just... and her mom, trying to be polite, is trying to get her to, like, stop. She don't care.
Yeah.
She's never seen whatever I got going on. Pale skin, when I had my hair, blonde-haired guy like yourself with blue eyes.
Yeah.
And this little girl, she's just, probably for her first time in person, she's probably seen us on TV and that, but that little girl, first time seeing anyone that looks like me.
Sure. And then you had that when you were in a bar with Chris, remember? The girl beside you, he was struck up a conversation with them.
No. They started with me discussing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they turned, and the question was, are you wearing contacts? Are they real?
Yeah.
And they're real. I was wearing a blue jacket, and as anybody has blue eyes, often when you wear blue, your eyes will pop. Yeah. True with people with green eyes, I guess, a lot.
Yeah, sure.
One of girls I know, she has very green eyes. She wears green, it just stands out. Anyways, all these questions about blue eyes, and the one girl was wearing blue contacts.
All right.
Yeah. So she had some vested interest in understanding blue eyes again.
Yeah, I've been told that too. There's even my students like sometimes will say, "Mick, Yirei, like your eyes are beautiful."
Yeah.
And then they often say, "They look like contacts. Are you wearing contacts?"
Yes, that's
Like,
exactly
no,
what.
these are my real eyes. Yeah.
And I mean the conversation, and poor Christian had to do all the transit. It was 10 minutes on the eye discussion, right? Like about eyes.
But it just goes
Like,
to show, like
things, did your mom have blue? Like, I'm like,
yeah.
yes, she does. She has very blue eyes.
it's like we're envious of people who like have darker skin.
Yeah.
We want to like get darker skin and have I go out and suntan so I'm not so pale. But the people who have darker skin, they want white skin. The people who have dark eyes, they want whatever's different.
Yeah, I'm North American, Caucasian, of Irish descent. Like the astronauts on the moon can see me, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Irish, French, me too. Look at that.
but North Americans, a lot of us, try and get tanning, like that tanning and
Yeah.
that healthy skin look.
And as the French say, "Vive la différence."
Yeah.
It's like that's the one great thing. Like that I'm even more than you. I think I'm attracted to exotic. Not only exotic women, but exotic
Cultures.
things,
You
exotic
are,
cultures, languages, foods, whatever it is. It's different.
That's probably a commonality we have. We do like exotic things, right?
Sure.
Better way to say it, probably. We're curious about things that are different than what we have or what we're used to. I am, anyways.
I don't know where it comes from, but part of it could come from like having grown up in such a homogenous society. Like I think I told you I told somebody else recently. I saw a black person in front, like with my own eyes, for the first time when I was 14 years old. I was at a track meet, all city track meet, and I was talking to some friends, and I looked and I was like, oh, there's a black guy over there, and I just thought, I've never seen a black person in person. I've seen them on TV or whatever, But that's how rare it was.
Yeah.
We had maybe mixed race and some I think one of my friends is mixed black and white or black and part Native American, Native Canadian, sorry. But yeah.
Oh,
but I mean,
North American Indian then,
Yeah,
Native
maybe-
Canadian.
maybe because I came from such
it's
a
called.
homogenous society that was that had no negative feelings towards
Exactly.
other other
Yep.
races. Because for example, there's places in the world that are homogenous that end up hating non-homogeneity, hating minorities. But in Canada, I grew up like just with no prejudice, and then but I think that piqued my curiosity because something that was different than the norm just
Yeah.
made me like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom for me, my mom was Irish, a woman, typical, Irish, everything, all the stereotypes. Our whole family had it. Sitting around the dinner table at Christmas, everybody getting drunk, like, not meaning we're all alcoholics, but they lived up to the Irish stereotypes, from Northern Ireland and that. My mom had an exceptional mind. Exceptional. I mean, would put most brilliant people to shame kind of mind.
So she would put me to shame. Oh my God.
There you go. Me too. But she always, things like race. Somebody bring up race, and she'd often say, well, there's only one race I know of, and that's the human race, unless we've discovered some other aliens or we're crossbreeding with, Neanderthals are back around or something. But, I mean, she always brought me up in that. So I said this one time to a girl that was Milano, maybe black skin, but Milano. And we're on a flight from Houston to Montreal, and we got talking, and she was very much pro-black on discussion about topics and that. And there's been oppression in the States, and I understand her discussion, right? And oppression in Canada or other countries as well. But I said to her, I was brought up with not seeing color, and she was all over me, like, you can't be brought up. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, well, I could argue the point with it.
Well, not that you don't see color, but that it just doesn't matter.
My mom brought me. I don't give a friggin' flying
Yeah,
fuck.
neither do I. And nobody ever said anything. My parents never said anything about it. I don't know how I became like this, but I think most of my friends that I grew up with were similar. We just don't care. Yeah.
My
I think
mom-
it's similar for a lot of Canadians. What do you think? You think it's a kind of Canadian thing?
If I would go predominant Canadian, like the masses that have not just moved to Canada 2 weeks ago, I'm not discussing.
And I'm not talking about recent like woke idiocy.
No, I'm talking about people that were pretty well brought up and raised a majority of their life. Maybe they came here or came to Canada even as, young 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Predominantly most of their life in Canada. They, as far as most countries I've been to, like, we are pretty, like, we don't give a for really.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty accepting.
You got more.
I wouldn't even say tolerant. Tolerant sounds bad. Except, just accepting or just, you don't give us, it's not a factor. Yeah.
So my grandmother and my mom used to preach this from when I was a young boy, and this is profanity to a young boy, but you used to say it. They used to say, Sean, always remember, assholes come in every color, shape, and size in the world. And I always was raised like that. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of
Sure.
shit. Let's not deal with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say most Canadians, maybe that's one of the things we can probably put a little bit pat on the shoulder about, is we're indifferent about we look different. Or,
From what I hear on media is probably distorting distorting the reality, but from what I hear, it's gotten pretty crazy recently where this woke stuff, it's all that matters is what color you are and what your sexual orientation is, whatever. But
there's
when we grew up, yeah, I don't know. And
because we were all immigrants. I don't know about you, but my family was
that's a good point, yeah.
My family's immigrants, and like I'm my dad's born in England, I was first generation Canadian. Like, we just help the community, be part of the community, try and make things better. But I think one thing that's going on a bit in Canada is some of the immigration now, some of the communities are trying to stay their own communities as opposed to way back maybe a little different. I say this not being in Canada I've lived out of Canada mainly over the past 8 years more than I've been in it. So
I think I'm not even Canadian anymore. I think
I would argue you're Japanese, mate. Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
Going back to Japan, it's not like the podcast is kind of difficult because I want to I want to just talk about whatever the fuck we talk about, you know? But I don't want people who are expecting to hear about Japan to have to sit through like 10 minutes of talking about other things
Canada.
at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit difficult, but it's kind of like, I don't know, like it's if you don't like it, if you don't like us talking, going off topic for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, just stop watching, you know, I guess.
If I cut to the chase, you don't want to watch anything else of this podcast. I've been to Japan 3 times and I'm considering moving here.
Yeah.
And I'm from a Western country that's wealthy, excellent standard of living relative to 99% of the planet. Well, yeah, by population probably. I mean, Japan's right up there. It's easily a top 10 country.
Let me tell you something. I'm getting closer now for effect. Let me tell you something that, you know, around when YouTube first came out, so I'm late with everything, as you know. I've been telling you about like trying to like improve my life recently, become an adult, even though I'm like
We're adulting
it's
now.
already like way too late.
There's a song in there. You're an adult now.
Yeah.
Old song.
Let's write it. So around when YouTube first came out, I thought, I've got a video camera. I have been interviewing people for, you know, at that time it was like 2012, so like 15 years, because my life is teaching. So basically my job is making people who don't want to talk or who are shy to talk. And so I thought, I've got these interview skills and I've got, you know, so why don't I make a podcast? Because podcasting was already going.
Of course.
And then video started and I thought, well, I could do some videos on Japan. Like I could show places, and I'm good at talking because I never shut up. So I thought I should make like some videos about Japan. And one of the reasons the main reason I didn't is just because I put everything off because I'm a procrastinator. But another reason I didn't do it, and this is a small reason, but it's a real reason. I didn't want other people to know how amazing Japan was.
Oh, kept secret.
Yeah, I didn't want, because one of the worst things about Japan is the minority of foreigners who fuck it up for everybody else. And there's a plethora of Instagram reels and YouTube videos showing how some idiot foreigners, you know, make everything bad for everyone else. Like recently they shut down part of Kyoto because some foreigners were idiots. And look at that crow. The crow's, I don't know, what is he doing? I think he fell inside that cage and then he like climbed himself out.
We got a fan here, kids. We got a crow watching our cat podcast.
So, but seriously, part of the reason is like, I don't want to tell people how amazing this country is because I don't want them moving here. But, so after years of watching other people start podcasts and, you know, videos about Japan and going, well, I should have done that a long time ago. Finally, I'm doing it. It's way too late to the dance. But also now I want people to come here.
Yeah.
The population is dwindling, but and you know, so if actually through this, some family could say, some guy or a woman in some family can go, that sounds like a great place to live, and my kids could have a great education there, and it's a cheap cost of living, and it's safe, and my kids could grow up being Chinese character readers, and they'd be able to speak Japanese and English, and
Or whatever language they come from.
Yeah, and that would be amazing. So yeah, I want people to come now.
So I realized in 2018 exactly what you said. Like, it's kind of a kept secret to the West. Like, I found Japan in 2018. It was like, it has a lot of the good things in North America, and it doesn't have a lot of the bad things in North America. Don't get me wrong, every country has their bad things in that. But some of the things like crime, like, not meaning you're going to have something happen to you, but the constant threat that you could have some violence, especially when I lived in the U.S. So there was a couple spots where I've worked and lived. You got to be mindful of yourself. You and I coming out of a place at 12 at night or whatever, if it's shady, like, you got to be aware where you are. You got to be aware of your surroundings. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's very low percentile, chance. But here in Japan, I meant that kind of occurrence is like, what are we talking, once in a decade kind of occurrence?
It's a huge thing because,
So that pressure cooker feeling or that
exactly
on your shoulder, it's not there.
Yeah.
And I take time when I come to Japan, I have to come out of this North American mode. And somebody looks at me the wrong way. I'm like, they're just looking. They don't mean anything by it here, you know. I'm like,
Yeah, it's a huge thing to look because like I said, I was interested in China and I was thinking about like after all my education, I was thinking about living in either China or Taiwan, Taipei. I'd say in Shanghai or Taipei. That's
Yep.
what I was going for. And but I knew I'd be looking over my shoulder the whole time. And I'd be wary of anybody who like interacted with me. It's like, what do you want? What do you want?
do you know what's interesting? If you look at like not just Japan, I've looked at it before in my travel. Asian culture in general, very low crime rate right across the board. Asian cultures in general are very.
Except that when you
In
go
general.
to, except when you go to a lot of other places, except maybe the no, even sometimes someplace in the Philippines, but people are always after you for something to buy this and that and come to my shop or whatever.
yeah.
When you come to Japan, nobody's asking you for anything.
Oh, it'd be great
anywhere.
if you came. That'd be great. You know,
No, they sometimes somebody out there outside the shop saying "irashaimase," like welcome, but that's all. They don't come up to you and
No. I've never been solicited.
Okay, that's not true. So sometimes like people want you to go to the girl bars and they say like, hey, you want to come? It's 500 yen per drink and there's cute girls.
I was going to say I've never been solicited, but let's give the caveat on those nighttime club strip areas.
Yeah.
You're going to be solicited, but
yeah.
let's take those out. I've never been solicited anywhere else, like small mom and pop restaurant here in Kobe.
Yeah.
Walking by, no, nothing.
Yeah. And so yeah, no, it's a huge thing not having to like look over your shoulder or worry. And when I came here and I started dating,
It's the cooker. I don't know how to explain.
Yeah.
I always say it's the pressure cooker. It's like
when I started dating, I was offering to like bring girls back to their house or walk them home, and they were like, no. And there's two reasons why. First, I'm sure they didn't want their parents to know that they were dating a foreigner or anybody at all, for that matter, Japanese or foreigner.
especially an ugly fuck like you.
Because unlike Western family,
Sorry, I was there.
unlike
you're ugly. You can't marry him.
point well taken.
They're thinking offspring, right? You can't have a kid looking like that.
Unlike it's a very practical consideration.
Just joking.
So, unlike Westerners who are more open to their family about who they're dating and when,
Yes.
whatever like that, Japanese are not. So, foreigner
Some
or
A-
Japanese, whatever.
Some Asian I met before, too, Chinese, like in North America,
Right.
very quiet with the family. Yeah.
But not only that, but I was like, yeah, but I should, because it's my job as the gentleman to like walk you to the But she's like, no, it's okay. And I was like, okay, fine. But then I learned later that it's like, it's so safe. I just stopped worrying about it. So I say, okay, we finish the date at 11 or whatever. And it's like, okay, bye. And she'd take the train home and walk, whatever. And I'd go home. And I just, after a while, little by little, just stopped worrying about it.
Oh, you just made me think of another culture shock I just realized. Especially from the last time I've been in Japan to now, the amount of homeless in North America, both Canada and US, has gone through the roof. And there's probably lots of reasons. I'm not an expert. Cost of living has gone up, all these things, especially post-pandemic. Costs like food went through the roof. Like a lot of people struggling, even people making jobs. I've been to Japan
Sad.
all this time now, like 4 months off and on. I've seen one homeless. One guy, and it's the same guy. I walk by him where he's, I don't know, maybe he chooses, maybe he has mental health, whatever.
No, there are very few homeless, and the ones that exist, basically never big. And
He has never harassed anybody I've ever seen going by there. Ever.
they often will live in a little community of homeless. And they'll do things like they'll go fishing in the river or they'll do odd jobs. And so, because you can, as a homeless person, you can get an odd job that'll make you like 1,000 or 2,000 yen a day, 10 or 20 bucks. And you can buy something to eat. Very good. You live another day.
So I was interested about it one day, and I looked it up online about what is Tokyo's homeless population or something. They had a number, and I'm not going to quote me on the number. They had something like less than 1,000 homeless people in a population city of everything, in the 30s millions.
I'm sure there's probably more than that, but even still.
Even if we go 300 or 400% inaccuracy, let's say there's 5,000.
Yeah. That's insane.
If you prorate that against a city like New York, Los Angeles, Houston, Toronto in Canada, Vancouver, no way. I'll say it's a 10 magnitude worse. It's unbelievable how low population of homeless people there
Yeah.
are.
I gotta go. I gotta teach. So, final words.
Japan sucks.
Yeah, you heard it here.
No. No, I don't know what you wanted out of this conversation, but
Well, I just wanted to have a talk, man, and we talked a lot about Japan, so that was great. It was perfect.
too much Canadian. So, but that's where we come from. So it gives you some basis of what the differences are, I guess, for us.
Yeah,
Yeah, Canada's great. You know,
it's a great country.
I will never give up my citizenship of Canada. I've told people that before. If I had to move to a country to work or live that they required me to give up my citizenship, I wouldn't give it.
If I were Japanese, I would not want to live in Japan because there's too many expectations of the way a Japanese is supposed to work and live and act and speak and behave.
We do get some liberty being foreigners, yeah, that's for
So,
sure.
but as a foreigner, you have a lot of privileges in Japan because you're just not obliged to follow the rules.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's almost like a reverse discrimination. Like my buddy Mark and I, we've gone into clubs where if you're a foreigner, you don't have to pay the entrance fee. And not only that, you still get the free drink that you would get if you paid the entrance fee. They're like paying us to go to the club.
Really?
Yeah, it's insane.
Well,
Yeah.
I've never been involved
There's,
in that.
there's a lot of like, it's not really preferential treatment. It's that Japanese are such amazing hosts that they just cater to other people. And by the way, I have to say that this is not, I'm a white dude. And so this is not the same as, how do you say, brown
Colored skin people,
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't know what people coming to Japan, what I say, black and brown people. It's not exactly the same, but they do, having ingratiated themselves with Japanese, get preferential treatment over Japanese also.
Oh, really?
You'll see a lot of foreigners come to Japan and complain about how they're getting treated, but I guarantee those people are not ingratiating themselves as they should, not learning the language, not being jovial enough.
And if anybody's lasted long enough and wants to know anything about the dating scene of that, and they're the old saying of preferential, foreigners coming, that every people in color, I can only speak of the women, being a guy goes for women and women go for me, hopefully generally. Well, sometimes guys go for me in my musician days. But every culture, every person in a culture is going to have their preferences. There are women that like foreigners. There are women that don't like foreigners.
Sure.
They like our look. They don't like our look.
Yeah.
The one thing they look for the most in foreigners, the guys or gals, I can't speak of the women, but I assume it's the same on their side. The one trait that Japanese women look for most in foreigners is kindness. They do like kind people. They do not like people that are cruel.
You also have to be able to communicate, however. So.
Yes, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. If you don't think you discriminate, think about your dating habits. Everyone discriminates. Okay, man. Thanks a lot.
Well, that's
That was a great
wise words from Brent right at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to say subscribe, and to my channel, please.
There you
Trying
go.
to get more subscribers, and please like and share it also. Thanks.
Bye, guys.